Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridhari. Yashoda Nandana Bhajananjana. Yashoda Nandana Bhajananjana. Jamuna Tira Vanachai. Jamuna Tira Vanachai. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridhari. Yashoda Nandana Bhajananjana. Yashoda Nandana Bhajananjana. Jamuna Tira Vanachai. Jamuna Tira Vanachai. Jaya Radha Govinda Radha Govinda Radhe. Jaya Jagannath Jaya Jagannath Jaya Baladeva Jaya Subhadra. Jaya Gauranitai 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 Jaya Gauranitai. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada. Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajaka Acharya Ashatara Sri Śrimad ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nitya Lila Prabhupada Om Vishnu Padis Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Nam Acharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Sakahosh Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopada Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Bhajamuma Nama Nam Ki Jai. Shri Namadip Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Shri Rachal Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Gangamayi Ki Jai. Jamunamayi Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Shmati Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai. The most beautiful worship Shri Shri Radha Govinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Ki Jai. Shri Shri Gauritai Ki Jai. Samabheta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Going back to home, back to Godhead Ki Jai. ISKCON New York Yatra Ki Jai. Brihad Madanga Transcendental Book Distribution Ki Jai. International Food for Life Transcendental Prasadam Distribution Ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Shri Ekadashi Vrata Ki Jai. Go Premanandi. Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the seven devotees. All glories to the seven devotees. All glories to the seven devotees. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. Glory to Srila Prabhupada. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narotamam Deving Sarasatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudhirayat. Before reciting this Śrimad Bhāgavatam, which is our very means of conquest, let us offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of God and Lord Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supremmost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and unto Srila Prabhupada, who is the translator, commentator, and our spiritual master. Nashta prayeshu bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavatittama shloke bhaktir bhavati naistiki. By regularly attending the Śrimad Bhāgavatam class and by rendering service unto the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving devotional service unto the personality of God, whose worship with transcendental songs becomes established as an irrevocable fact. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're continuing our reading from the fourth canto of the Śrimad Bhāgavatam. This is chapter 7, the sacrifice performed by Daksha. I've been asked to speak on texts 56 and 57. So I will read 56 by myself and we'll do 57 responsively. So text 56, you don't have to repeat. It's very hard to see. I think I need stronger reading glasses, but maybe it's easier to see on my phone. Let's see. Rujam Savena Bhagena Yupata Vatsamahita Kurmana Vadavasnena Samapan Itaranapi Udavasya Sahavik Twigvi Sashnav Abritam Tataha. So Srila Prabhupada's translation for that verse. With all respect, Daksha worshipped Lord Shiva with his share of the remnants of the yajna. After finishing the ritualistic sacrificial activities, he satisfied all the other demigods and the other people assembled there. Then, after finishing all these duties with the priests, he took a bath and was fully satisfied. Srila Prabhupada's purport. Lord Rudra, Shiva, was properly worshipped with his share of the remnants of the yajna. Yajna is Vishnu, and whatever prasad is offered to Vishnu is offered to everyone, even to Lord Shiva. Sridhar Swami also comments in this connection, Svena Bhagena, the remnants of the yajna are offered to all the demigods and others. So now we'll do 57 responsively. Tatsma api anubhavena Swainaiva Vapta Radhase Dharma Eva Mating Dattva Sridashas Te Divang Yayuhu Tasmapyanabhavena Swainaiva Vaptaradhase Dharma Eva Mating Dattva Sridashaste Divang Yayuhu. Just a pronunciation note. The second word on the first line is a P. In the synonyms, you'll see API. But in the transliteration here, you see APY. When that I changes to a Y, it indicates that you run it into the next word. You don't say api anubhavena. You say apyanubhavena. Sunday, run it together, okay? Tasmapyanubhavena. Swainaiva vaptaradhase. Dharma eva mating tattva Sridashaste divang yayuhu Tasmapyanabhavena Swainava vaptaradhase Dharma eva mating tattva Sridashaste divang yayuhu. Please chant. Tasmapyanubhavena Sridashaste divang yayuhu Tasmapyanubhavena Swainaiva vaptaradhase Dharma eva mating dattva. Anyone else? Don't be shy, you should chant. This is how we remember what we read, by chanting. Tasmadapyanabhavena Srinaiva vaptaradhase Dharma eva mating dattva Sridashaste divang yayuhu. Prabhupada said, repetition is the mother of learning. And if you listen to any of the original recordings of Prabhupada's classes, just go on chanting. You'll be like 10, 20 men chant and then 10 women and like that. There's repetition. And this is our meditation for today. The Bhāgavatam verse in the morning, and whatever is read in the morning, that's your meditation for the day. So we should try to let it sink in. Okay, synonyms. Tasmat, unto him. Daksha. Api, even. Anubhavena, by worshiping the Supreme Lord. Swaina, by his own. Eva, certainly. Avaptaradhase, having attained perfection. Dharme, in religion. Eva, certainly. Matim, intelligence. Dattva, having given. Sridashaha, actually it's a long A, it's Sridashaha. Demigods. Te, those. Divam, to the heavenly planets. Yayuhu went. So, Srila Prabhupada's translation for this verse. Thus, worshipping the Supreme Lord Vishnu by the ritualistic performance of sacrifice, Daksha was completely situated on the religious path. Moreover, all the demigods who had assembled at the sacrifice blessed him that he might increase his piety, and then they left. Please repeat. Thus, worshipping the Supreme Lord Vishnu by the ritualistic performance of sacrifice, Daksha was completely situated on the religious path. Moreover, all the demigods who had assembled at the sacrifice blessed him that he might increase his piety, and then they left. Srila Prabhupada's purport. Sorry, I just turned off my purport. Although Daksha was considerably advanced in religious principles, he awaited the blessings of the demigods. Thus, the great sacrifice conducted by Daksha ended in harmony and peace. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamini Tinamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshtarine Om Agyana Timirandasya Dhyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Ummitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtang Stapitang Jena Bhutale Swayam Upakadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeyahang Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishyavangsha Shri Rupam Sagajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tang Sujivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitangsha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jaganpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namosate Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishwanu Sate Devi Pranamami Haripri Vancha Kalpatarubhya Sha Kripa Sindhuva Evacha Patitanang Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaurabhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So this sacrifice of Daksha, as stated in the last line of the purport, ended in peace and harmony. But indicates that previously things were not so peaceful and definitely not harmonious, which we should take seriously, that some people still to this day, they aspire to go to the heavenly planets. They want to live on that level of existence. Just like a poor person on this level of existence, they aspire to become rich because life is easier and more pleasant. But we should learn from this example that, as Krishna states in the Bhagavad Gita, Tu kalayama shashvatam, everything is temporal and miserable. Even if you make it, abhama bhuvana loka punar avartanarjana, even if you make it to the level of Lord Brahma, Brahmaloka, still there is possibility of miserable conditions. We know Brahma in the beginning of creation, he was chased by his demoniac offspring who wanted to do something unspeakable with him. So even Lord Brahma is not necessarily safe. This is not a place to hang out and make plans for happiness or even peace. It's not guaranteed. So those who are aspiring to demigod level of life, of course nowadays most people, they don't believe it. They think this is all just mythology. When the British went to India and they saw how advanced culture was there in terms of philosophy, religion, science, math, all these things are so much more advanced, they were shocked. But they wanted to conquer, so they had to devise a scheme, how you conquer somebody who's more advanced than you. So they systematically educated the higher class of Indians to believe that all of this Vedic presentation is just mythology. In other words, they educated them to disbelieve what had been accepted for millennia previously. Thousands and thousands of years of knowledge coming down in the Indian culture Vedic culture, they systematically made them disbelieve it, or at least doubt it. So now, even in India, still common people, they accept, they will go to temple of Mataji, they will go to temple of Shiva, not too many temples of Brahma even in India. But so many demigods they'll worship. They accept the worship of demigods, higher beings than human beings. Otherwise, why worship them? If they're not higher than you, they can't do anything for you, why you worship them? So they accept that there are higher living entities in the material universe that can do things for you that you can't necessarily do for yourself. So they pray. They pray to the demigods, please give me Dhanam Dehi, Rupadehi. They want beautiful wife, they want nice, comfortable situation on this level of existence. They can't wait to qualify to go to the higher planets. Give me comfortable life right here. But lo and behold, as I've stated many times, if you study the culture of this planet as a whole, all around the world, all around the globe, other cultures also accepted that they were higher beings. Even the so-called Aborigines in Australia, which is supposedly, at least from modern perspective, the longest running culture that they can verify. They can verify that Aborigines were there in Australia for 50, 60,000 years, that their culture has been coming down. So they believed, they accepted sun god, moon god, and even in modern times, the Romans, the Greeks, they accept sun god, moon god, god of war, goddess of this, goddess of that. So it's not just in India, it's all over. It's all over because the Vedic culture at one point, as we know, is spread all over the world. It wasn't just confined to what is now modern day India. So in Africa, still people are worshiping this god, that goddess. So this culture of accepting and understanding that there were higher beings than human beings on other planets, not just on this planet, this is going on since time immemorial. But the modern so-called educated scientists, philosophers, they don't accept. Oh, this is just mythology. To this day, the British are still trying to push that narrative. Just a couple of years ago, I saw they made a documentary because they had read in the Vedas about this Somaras. So they became curious. What is this Somaras? So they sent documentary team, to go into the all far reaches Himalayas to find out what is this Somaras. And they came to the conclusion, it's this particular herb that grows in a particular region of the Himalayas, and they make a beverage out of it, and they drink it, and then they have these visions that became the Vedas. It's just some sages in the Himalayas drinking this slightly intoxicating beverage, and then they write down these Vedic stories. Still today they're trying to disprove what Vyasadeva is giving us as fact. They're trying to make us believe is not fact. It's just mythology. So we're very fortunate to come in contact with this Sampradaya, Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. Maybe the others are also still giving the true vision, true picture of reality, but we know at least in our Sampradaya, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Bhaktisiddhanta, like that, going back to Lord Brahma himself, giving the real picture of what is going on in the universe. That there are different grades of living beings. They're not all confined to this planet. And just as on this planet, there are different grades of living entities, even amongst the human beings, not every human being is the same. Somebody's stronger than somebody else. Somebody runs faster than somebody else. Somebody's more mentally adept than others. There was one, I grew up here in New York, so I remember there was one New York Knicks basketball player who was very celebrated for his memory. He had such a memory. Nowadays we don't have phone books anymore. Everybody just keeps contacts on their phone, but there used to be a printed phone book. Thick, it's New York City, millions of people. Thick phone book with name after name, and any particular name you pick, let's say Smith. There could be 10, 15, 20 pages of just Smith, and then Jones, and then, whatever. So this particular basketball player, he was celebrated for his ability to memorize huge portions of the phone book. From memory, he could just remember, this Smith, that Smith, and their phone number, and then just go on page, and somebody would verify, hold the phone book, and yeah, he's remembered. So, because some people, to today have what we call photographic memories. They can look at something and they remember it. Not necessarily Trikalagya, not necessarily Shrutadhar, like Srila Bhaktisiddhanta was celebrated as being Shrutadhar. Whatever you'd hear, even mundane subject matters, because he was educated in regular schools at one point in his life. Any subject that he would hear, he would remember. So this basketball player wasn't necessarily on that level of existence, but he had a very sharp memory. How many of us could do that? Remember even one page of the phone book, what to speak of 10, 20, 30, 50, 60, 100 pages of the phone book. So everybody's not equal in their material abilities. On the spiritual platform, yes, we're all equal, but materially we're not. Somebody is, again, stronger, somebody's faster, somebody's more mentally adept, somebody's more intellectually adept. And ultimately, somebody's more spiritually advanced. Because, again, we're covered by different mixtures of the three modes of material nature, and therefore, we're not necessarily exhibiting our original spiritual situation. So some living entities come into the material world, like Srila Prabhupada at the behest of Krishna himself, go there and deliver them. So they never get covered over. They're completely always on their original spiritual mentality, capabilities. And so such personalities can teach us. I remember growing up, I was born in Jamaica. It was at that time a British colony. 1952 I was born there. And they didn't get their independence until 1966. So we were initial education. I finished my education here in New York. But initial education was under the British system. Those of you who are from India, it's a little different from the American system because you also came out of the British colonial educational system. So the British, they have, Prabhupada gave them their credit. It's a tiny little island. England, Scotland, Wales, Ireland. They're just little islands in the North Atlantic. But from that small spot on the Earth planet, they traveled all over the world and conquered, to the point where they had the saying, the sun never sets on the British Empire, because they had conquered so much. Imagine somebody, Caucasian, well, not Caucasian, you can't say, white body person from that small island going to deepest, darkest Africa to conquer. So Prabhupada said they were courageous, at least. Not necessarily right in what they were doing, but they had courage to leave their little spot on the globe and go all over the world. So Prabhupada said we should preach with the courage of an Englishman. As preachers of Krishna consciousness, we should have at least the courage of an Englishman. In other words, not be afraid to go anywhere. They didn't know what was existing in the Congo, but they were brave enough to go there to see what they could, of course, it was for aggrandizement, to see what they could capture materially and make some profit out of. But at least they had the courage. But the other side, Prabhupada said, you have to have the heart of a Bengali mother. In other words, very compassionate. So both things have to be there. Courage and compassion to be a successful preacher. So Prabhupada exhibited both. He himself, from Calcutta, now known as Kolkata, and from there went all over the world with both things, courage and compassion. So we're very fortunate coming in this sampradaya where we don't accept these things as being mythological. Nowadays, most people still, they don't have any clue of what's going on in the universe. They're still thinking that everything is confined just to this one planet, and outside of that, there's nothing but dust and rocks. And no, that's because your eyes are covered with dust. And they need to be cleansed. They have to have the dust removed from their eyes and the rocks removed from their heads so they can understand that we are not the epitome of existence. So from the Shastra, we understand that there are 8,400,000 different species or types of bodies, mentalities also, that the living entity in the material world can inhabit. So Jalaja Navalakshani, Stavara Lakshabhingshati, Krimayo Ruja Sankhyakyam Pakshinam Dashalakshanam, Tringsha Lakshani Pashiva, Chato Lakshani Manasha. So we should remember these. These Stotras, these verses are given to make things easy to remember. If you can remember just few lines pertaining to so many subjects, then you have it all in there. So those who are from India know that a lakh is 100,000. So Jalaja, Ja means birth, Jal means water. So those who take birth in water, Navalakshani. In other words, 9 lakhs, 900,000. To this day, they're investigating. There are scientists who dedicate their whole lives to trying to figure out how many types of fish are there, how many different types of octopus are there, how many. We don't waste our time. The Vedas say, Navalakshani, 900,000 species that take birth in water. Bas, that's it. We don't need to do any research. And such poor fellows, because they concentrate on just one aspect of creation, they're naturally going to come back. They're going to take birth in water. Because their whole life, they've been spending in the water, studying creatures in the water. It's guaranteed practically. At their last breath, they're going to think of some weird creature in the ocean, and they're going to take birth in the ocean. So, Jalaja Namalakshani, Stavara Lakshabhingshati. Stavara means living entities you cannot move. They're fixed, like trees and plants. They're fixed. They grow, and they live a lot longer than we do. They say there are some trees on this planet, even right now, that are 4,000, 5,000 years old, maybe up to 6,000 years old. They verified. How did they verify? By the growth rings. They can see this living entity was here when Krishna was on the planet, but still standing there, can't do anything. Not much anyway. So what's the value of such long life? So we're not trying to live as long as the trees. We want to get out of here. We qualify ourselves to get out of here at the end of this particular body. How many years did Lord Chaitanya spend on this planet? After appearing a little more than 500 years ago. How long did he stay? Who knows? We should know these things. Are we reading Chaitanya Charitamrita? How many years did Lord Chaitanya stay on the planet? 48 years. So, once you pass 48, you're living on borrowed time. Prabhupada said, youth lasts until you're 40, and then you become an old man. And it's going to get less. As Kali Yuga progresses, we know Kali Yuga lasts for how many years? No. How long does Kali Yuga last? 432,000 years, out of which we've passed just about 5,000. So about 427,000 years left. Just imagine. Things are so bad already. Just imagine how bad it's going to get. So it's already predicted that if you live to be 30, 40, you're a grand old man. You're looked up to as being such a successful ancestor. Already it's, we're surprised, and, when somebody lives, like the Pope just died at 88. We're thinking, live such a long, 88 is not very much. Any child can multiply 8 by 10, 80. It's nothing. But we're so already covered over that we're thinking that if you live to be 88, whoa, what a long life. That's nothing. That's nothing. So, Stavara Lakshabhingshati. Lakshabhingshati means 20 times 20 lakhs, that's 2 million. 2 million living entities that have to stand, some of them for thousands of years. That's not the kind of life we're aspiring for. Krimayo Ruja Sankhya, and then 1.1 lakh or 1,100,000 creatures who are amphibians or reptiles. Then, Pakshinam Dashalakshanam. Pakshinam means the birds. Birds, Dashalakshanam. Dashalakshana means 1 million, 10 million. 10 lakhs, 1 million. So interestingly, we're talking about demigod level of existence. The birds come from that level. When Kashyapa Muni married 13 daughters of Daksha, and through one of them, Vinata, he gave birth to the birds, including Garuda. Garuda Ji Ki Jai. And therefore, Garuda is known as Vainateya, the son of Vinata. So 1 million bird types. And then, Chingsha Lakshani Pashuva, Pashu, animals, meaning like cats, dogs, tigers, elephants. Animals, 3 million types. And this is another place where the British tried to confuse, or at least put doubt into the minds of the Indian so-called modern intellectuals. They came up with this Darwinian theory of evolution, of bodies turning into other bodies. But then we have no such experience, because it doesn't happen. That's why we don't have any experience. Cats always give birth to cats, dogs give birth to dogs, elephants give birth to elephants. We don't have any experience of a donkey giving birth to something that is part cat, part donkey. Always the same species. So at what point does it transform? If the existing species always give birth to the same species, at what point does the transformation take place? It's bogus. So Prabhupada pointed out, yes, there is evolution, but it's an evolution of consciousness, because as the living entity takes higher and higher types of physical forms, more and more conscious. Therefore, the pashus, the animals, are considered to be more advanced than the birds. Birds are very conscious. It's very difficult to sneak up on a bird. They're always looking around. But cats do it regularly. They say that one of the most devastating acts of destruction going on around the world is domestic cats killing wildlife, including birds. So how do they do it? How do they sneak up on it? Because they're more intelligent. They figure out where they can wait motionless, and we make it easy for them. Nowadays, many people have bird baths in their gardens, and I've witnessed it personally. A cat will wait just close enough, and then the bird comes in to take a bath and jumps on him. So it's an evolution of consciousness. The higher types of bodies make you more and more conscious. And then we come to Chatur Lakshani Manusha, human-like species. Not all like us. This is our mistake. We're thinking we are the epitome. Human beings of our type are, no, they're higher. And that succession is given in the Bhāgavatam. Like above human beings are actually the ghosts. Ghosts are considered to be more advanced than the regular human beings. Why? Because they have abilities we don't have. They can pass through walls, and you can't confine them in any space. They can control by their desire somebody else. So, and then you have other living entities, other human types, like kinnaras. What is a kinnara? It's a combination of two words. Nara means human, and kim means what? So you see this creature, and you ask, what kind of human is that? So that's a kinnara. And then you have kim purushas. Again, purusha means man, and kim means what? So you see that creature, and you ask, what kind of man is that? So in this way you go up and up and up and up to the demigods, Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva. Of course, Lord Shiva is not considered to be a regular human being. So in this sacrifice, on that level of existence, way above our level of existence in terms of ability, facility, still there are problems. So again, that should give us a wake-up call. It's not that you're going to be able to carve out some niche in the material world where there will be no problems, everything will be always peaceful and happy and prosperous. No, it's not possible. It's not possible. Krishna already said, Dukkalayam ashashvatam. Anywhere you go in this material creation, it's temporary, and their misery is just around the corner. So Daksha found out personally. Threefold miseries are there. First set of miseries caused by your own body and mind. So his mind was giving him trouble in relation to his son-in-law, Lord Shiva. He couldn't tolerate the fact that he thought Lord Shiva was not giving him proper respect. So because his mind became disturbed, he committed an offense. Now Lord Shiva On the one hand, he's known as Ashutosh, very easy to please. But on the other hand, you don't want to get him upset because he has the ability to destroy the entire universe. So in this particular case, he didn't take it upon himself to retaliate, but his followers did. And who are his followers? The ghosts, the hobgoblins. And like I said, they're more powerful. So they destroyed Daksha's sacrifice, and they destroyed Daksha himself, cut his head off. But by higher surgical ability, he was given the head of a goat, and he understood his mistake. Then Lord Vishnu comes, and now Daksha has offered prayers, and the sacrifice resumes, and everybody apparently at this point is satisfied. But again, we should learn that there is no safe place, there is no happy place in this material world. It's a myth, and we should take that to heart. It doesn't mean that we're pessimistic, we're realistic. We're being taught to be realistic, to see reality as it is, not as we would like it to be. That if I earn enough money, and if I get the right partner, and if I get the right living situation, and it's not going to happen. And I kind of understood that even as a child, because within my own family, vast disparity. My mother is from a family of 8 children. She's the second. Her older brother, he dropped out of medical school and went into real estate and became fabulously wealthy. He's still alive. My mother's gone, died at 87, but he's probably 95 now, still living on his fabulous estate in Orlando area of Florida. So I saw that on the one side is this uncle who is so fabulously wealthy, and then on the other hand, her second to last sister married some, to put it nicely, bum. And so even as a young woman, she already had 2 children and struggling like anything to put food on the table, because he would work sometime and then stop working, just intoxicate, and then go back to work for a little bit. So in my own family, I saw that disparity. And it prompted me to ask my mother, who was a very staunch Christian, how is this possible? If there is a God who is fair and just, as you say, even within our own family, there's this disparity. Somebody's so wealthy, somebody's struggling. Why that disparity? She couldn't answer. She said, you go to the church and ask the minister. I mean, we're talking like 10 years old. So I did. I asked the minister, and the stock answer that Christians will give you, oh, God works in mysterious ways, and you just have to, they don't have any clear answer because they don't accept the law of karma. As soon as you come to the Vedic canon, to the Vedic literature, and you accept the law of karma, everything becomes clear. What you've done in the past, you're reaping now, good or bad. And this is clearly stated, and there's an obscure verse, at least obscure to most of the devotees. I'm sure you haven't bothered to memorize this verse, but it stuck out to me because I always had this fascination with karma. And 10th canto, one of the latter chapters, I forget now, but it says, Eka prasuyate jantu, eka eva paliyate, ekonu bhungte sukritam, eka esha chaduskritam. It says, every living entity is born alone, dies alone, and alone has to enjoy or suffer the results of their activities, karma, in other words. So this is our situation. This is our situation. Born alone, even if you're from a set of twins or triplets, you still come out alone. Like in the case of Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. It's stated that Hiranyaksha treated Hiranyakashipu as his elder brother. And so Prabhupada said, why? Because Hiranyaksha was born first, and the child, the twin who comes out last, is considered to be elder because he was implanted first. That's the Vedic vision. So when you have twins, the one who comes out last is considered to be the elder of the two. So Hiranyaksha treated his brother Hiranyakashipu as his elder brother. And he was willing to do anything for him. So we should understand, we're being given a very, very clear, very picture of reality. So we are realists, we're not pessimists. And if we follow the path of Krishna consciousness, we become very, very happy realists. Because we see the big picture, we understand what's going on, and by pleasing the spiritual master, by pleasing Krishna, by pleasing his representative, then we naturally become happy. It's not, you can't fake it. It's just natural happiness of the soul. The soul is by nature happy. It's because we're covered over by the material energy, experiencing the threefold miseries, that we feel unhappy. But as we come out of that covered situation, covered condition, the natural happiness starts to shine through. And therefore Prabhupada said once, if you're morose, something is wrong with you. Something is wrong with your execution of Krishna consciousness. Nothing is wrong with the process. Because we look around, we're conditioned to always blame somebody else. The temple president, or this person in the ashram, or my parents, or the government, or we always want to blame somebody else for whatever misery we're experiencing. But the pure devotees, those who are back on or never left the pure state of existence, they're always happy. Oh, even externally, they may not seem that way. There's one example where Prabhupada had given, her name was Jadharani at the time. Now she got the name Shamarani from somebody else, but her name was Jadharani initially. And Prabhupada gave her a photograph of himself and said, make a painting out of it. And then periodically, Prabhupada would ask, so is that painting ready? She would say, no, Prabhupada, and then he waited some little longer. So finally he said, what's going on? Where's the painting? She said, well, Prabhupada, I don't think you look very happy in this photograph, so I don't want... Prabhupada said, I was very happy. We tend to judge externally. The person has to have a big smile on their face and, hi, how are you? And no. This is Western culture, or lack of culture, actually. Because they judge everything externally. If you're not walking around with a big grin on your face, then you're not happy. No. Happiness is internal. So Prabhupada said, no, I was very happy at that point. Make the painting. So again, we're very, very fortunate to have come in contact with His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. We're getting a very clear picture of not only our life, what we should do, but universal, the reality, universal condition. And in that happy condition, then we go out and distribute Krishna consciousness. Distribution of Krishna consciousness is done by happy devotees. Because the natural human tendency is that if you're happy, whatever is making you happy, you want to share with others. Even like the non-devotees. They go to some new restaurant and they like it, so they text it. Nowadays, nobody calls anybody. They text everybody, or they have a WhatsApp group. Oh, go try this restaurant, it's very good. Anything in your life that you consider to be good, nice, you naturally want to share. So if we're having a good time in Krishna consciousness, if we're happy in Krishna consciousness, we don't have to be prompted to share it. We naturally want to go out and share it. Okay? So we'll stop here. Any questions, comments? Or you can give him this. It's while he's speaking, you try to fix the wireless.
Hare Krishna, thank you very much, Prabhu. So on the last point, almost the last point that you were speaking, that we are not pessimists, we are realists. I found out during the years that for many people, actually, non-devotees, it's actually very difficult to grasp this point. When devotees start speaking very liberally about sufferings of this world and how everything is suffering and how all of us, we are going to die, and people, they are really getting scared from all this. So they take it as we are very pessimistic, and maybe we try to enjoy, we try to be successful, but it didn't work, and that's why actually we accepted this philosophy. In fact, we could accept other philosophies. We are more jolly and positive, but because we personally were not successful, maybe that's why we accepted this one. Can you comment on this?
So it's not that the fact that death is there was, created by Srila Prabhupada or Brahma Maharaj. Death is there, as sure as death. But by giving them Bhagavad Gita, you're going to convince them that you don't die. Na jayate, na mriyate va kadachit. So then you become happy. Then they should immediately, I'm not going to die. So many instances of that. There's one YouTube channel, I'm trying to remember the devotee's name. I just discovered it like a couple of days ago. One devotee, elderly Indian gentleman, I forget his name now, gosh, I just kind of glanced at it and I saw one episode. He related the true story, of a Spanish businessman who was visiting France. And it was during the marathon time. So this Mataji got on a train where he was on the train, successful business guy, nicely dressed and wealthy guy. And she gave him a Krishna book. And he was so enraged that he threw the book on the floor of the train, stomped on it, threw her off the train. She broke her arm like that. And then, but somehow or other, he decided to take the book home because he wanted to tell his wife the story of what happened. So he said, you see this book? This girl came on the train and gave me this book, and I threw it down and told the whole story. And then he left it on the kitchen table. And his maid, while he was away at work, she came, she saw the book and how it was, torn and broken. But she thought it was one of his books, and she didn't know what happened, so she fixed it up as best she could and put it on the bookshelf. So then later on, misfortune just came upon this guy because of the way he mistreated a devotee. His wife died suddenly. His son became a drug addict. His daughter married some low-class guy and ran away. So in this condition, he was contemplating committing suicide. And then he thought, I've never been religious in my life, but if I'm going to pull the trigger, at least let me read something, find a Bible or something. So he went to the bookshelf, and that book stood out to him. So he took it down, Krishna book, and just opened it at random. And in that random page was presentation that you don't die. The soul doesn't die. The soul lives eternally. And he became fascinated. My wife is not actually dead. She's actually existing. So he read and read and read. Long story short, because he met the devotee in France, he called up the temple in Paris. And they said, no, you're in Spain. We have temples in Spain. Madrid, we have. So he started going to the temple and gave huge donation, and gradually became a devotee. And then he became a book distributor. So this is the power of Krishna consciousness. People are suffering because they're in ignorance. And it doesn't matter. Ignorance is rampant, no matter what level of society you look on. The wealthiest, the poorest, everybody's in ignorance. Everybody is a fit candidate for Krishna Prasad. Prabhupada used to remind us of that. Krishna Prasadam is not meant just for poor people. Everybody is a fit candidate for Krishna Prasadam. Wealthy, poor, doesn't matter. Because Krishna's mercy is what will save us. So we should have both things. We should have, as far as possible, free distribution of free prasadam. Like when I was in Moscow in '95, they had that. They had a daily prasadam free distribution. They would go to some particular hall, and mostly old ladies, widows and widowers, they would come there and get at least a bowl of some kind of cereal and a piece of bread. Because the devotees weren't very wealthy at that time, 95 in Moscow. They didn't have a lot of money. But on the other hand, so that was their Food for Life program, they also had a Food for Money program. They had a kiosk, and every day they would make all these wonderful cakes and rolls, and they would sell to the public. And there would be a long line. So both things have to be there. Food for life, where we can distribute free prasadam, and also food for money. And Prabhupada said that once. He said, we have enough temples. We don't need to open any more temples. Open restaurants / reading rooms, where people can come and sit down and eat Krishna prasadam, and at the same time the books are there, so they can read and hopefully buy the books. So Prabhupada had a complete vision for everything. And he described in detail how the restaurant should be run. It should be all you can eat for a fixed price, but you're not allowed to take any leftovers. Whatever you put on your plate, you have to eat. Not that you fill your plate, you eat half, and then you say, oh, give me $1 so I can take the rest out. No, not allowed. Whatever you pay one price, and if you eat like an elephant, okay, maybe not too many, hopefully too many elephants won't come. But some people will eat, enough and stop, and some will eat more, but one fixed price. That was Prabhupada's vision for restaurants. So Prabhupada covered all bases, all bases. If you take the time to read all of Prabhupada's letters, conversations, morning walks, listen to them if you can, but some of them are difficult to understand, so most of them have been transcribed. So you read Prabhupada, because he gave in detail. Or, in the database, there's a Prabhupada Shikshamrita section where somebody did that. They indexed most, if not all, of what Prabhupada said. So if you want to look up marriage, what Prabhupada said about marriage, or what Prabhupada said about politics or whatever, everything's there indexed. So you can do it that way. So Srila Prabhupada, it's amazing, I mean, those of us who had the good fortune of meeting him and taking initiation, we're still blown away. How much Prabhupada did in just 12 years. He landed in America in 65, and he left this world in 77. How much he accomplished in those 12 years. It's not ordinary. And even non-devotees can see that. That's why even today in India, so many politicians, they glorify him because they can see. It's not just sentiment. They can see how much he accomplished in such a short amount of time. So many temples, so many followers, and it's going on by his force. It's not by our little effort. We do a little something every day. All of us do a little seva. It's not our little seva that's keeping this movement going on. It's Srila Prabhupada's. The force of Srila Prabhupada's desire, the force of his preaching, the force of his teaching. That's what's keeping ISKCON afloat. Okay, Granth Srimad Bhāgavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai.